Should we go through the prayers first? Yeah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nashtaprayeshu bhaddeshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavate uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiti. By regular attendance in the classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana-Nirandasya Jnana-Jana-Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. And I offer my respectful obeisances unto him.
Pritoham te prajanatha
Pritoham te prajanatha
Yatte syotrimhanam tapaha
Yate shubhrihamnam tapaha
Mamaisha kamubhutanam
Mamaisha kamabhutanam
Yadbhuyasur vibhutayaha
Yadbhuyasur vibhudayaha
Pritoham te prajanatha
Pritoham te prajanatha
Yatte syotrimhanam tapaha
Yate shubhrihamnam tapaha
Mamaisha kamubhutanam
Mamaisha kamabhutanam
Yadbhuyasur vibhutayaha
Yadbhuyasur vibhudayaha
Pritoham te prajanatha
Pritoham te prajanatha
Yatte syotrimhanam tapaha
Yate shubhrihamnam tapaha
Mamaisha kamubhutanam
Mamaisha kamabhutanam
Yadbhuyasur vibhutayaha
Yadbhuyasur vibhudayaha
Pritoham te prajanatha
Pritoham te prajanatha Yate shubhrihamnam tapaha Mamaisha kamabhutanam Yadbhuyasur vibhudayaha Pritoham te prajanatha Yate shubhrihamnam tapaha. Would you like to? No issue.
Mamaisa kamabhutanam
Mamaisha kamabhutanam Yadbhuyasur vibhudayaha Pritoham te prajanatha
Yate shudbriham tapaha
Yate shubhrihamnam tapaha
Mamaisa kamabhutanam
Mamaisha kamabhutanam Yadbhuyasu vibhutaha
Yadbhuyasur vibhudayaha
Pritoham te prajanatha Yate shubhrihamnam tapaha
Mamaisa kamabhutanam
Mamaisha kamabhutanam Yadbhuyasu vibhutaha
Yadbhuyasur vibhudayaha
Pritaha Very much pleased
Very much pleased
Aham
Aham
I Te
Te
With you
with you
Prajanatha
Prajanatha
O King of population
O King of population
Yet
Because
Te
Te
Your
Your
Asya
Asya
Of this material world
of this material world
Udbrimhanam
Udrimhanam
Causing increase
Causing increase
Tapaha
Tapaha
Austerity
Austerity
Mama
Mama
My
My
Eshaha
Esha
This
Kamaha
Desire Bhutanam
Bhutanam
Of the living entities
of the living entities
Yet Which Bhuyasuhu
Bhuyasuhu
May there be Vibhutayaha
Vibhudayaha
Advancement in all respects
Advancement in all aspects.
Translation My dear Prajapati Daksha You have performed extreme austerities for the welfare and growth of the world. My desire also is that everyone within this world be happy. I am therefore very pleased with you because you are endeavoring to fulfill my desire for the welfare of the entire world. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. After every dissolution of the material cosmos, all the living entities take shelter in the body of Karanadaksha Vishnu. And when creation takes place again, they come forth from his body in their various species to resume their activities. Why does the creation take place in such a way that the living entities are put into conditioned life to suffer the threefold miseries imposed upon them by material nature? Here the Lord says to Daksha, you desire to benefit all living entities, and that is also my desire. The living entities who come in contact with the material world are meant to be corrected. All the living entities within this material world have revolted against the service of the Lord, and therefore they remain within this material world as ever conditioned, Nitya Bhakta, taking birth again and again. There is a chance, of course, of their being liberated, but nevertheless, the conditioned souls, not taking advantage of this opportunity, continue in a life of sense enjoyment, and thus they are punished by birth and death again and again. This is the law of nature. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 7.14, Daiviyesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mameva prapadyante mayami antarantite. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita 15.7, the Lord says, Mamaivanshu jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha manavasasthani viryani prakriti sthani karshati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. The living entity's struggle for existence within the material world is due to his rebellious nature. Unless a living entity surrenders to Krishna, he must continue this life of struggle. The Krishna consciousness movement is not a fad. It is a bona fide movement intended to promote the welfare of all conditioned souls by trying to elevate everyone to the platform of Krishna consciousness. If one does not come to this platform, he must continue in material existence perpetually, sometimes in the upper planets and sometimes in the lower planets, as confirmed in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 20.118. Kabhu svake uthaya, kabhu narake dubaya. The conditioned soul sometimes descends into nescience, and sometimes gets some relief by being relatively freed from it. This is the life of the conditioned soul. Prajapati Daksha is trying to benefit the conditioned souls by begetting them to give them a life with a chance for liberation. Liberation means surrender to Krishna. If one begets children with the purpose of training them to surrender to Krishna, fatherhood is very good. Similarly, when the spiritual master trains the conditioned souls to become Krishna conscious, his position is successful. If one gives the conditioned souls a chance to become Krishna conscious, all his activities are approved by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is extremely pleased, as stated here, Pritoham. Following the examples of the previous acharyas, all the members of the Krishna consciousness movement should try to benefit the conditioned souls by inducing them to become Krishna conscious and giving them all facilities to do so. Such activities constitute real welfare work. By such activities, a preacher, or anyone who endeavors to spread Krishna consciousness, is recognized by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the Lord himself confirms in Bhagavad Gita 18.68-69. Ya idam paramam guhyam madbhakteshva vidhasyati bhaktimai param kritva mamevaishyasya samshayaha nacha tasman manusyeshu kaschine priyakritamaha bhavita nacha me tasmad anya priyataro bhuvi. For one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees. Devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end he will come back to me. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Govisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haritiye Vancha Kalpatarubhasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Patanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna everyone, please accept my humble obeisances. So today we are going into a new pastime. Chapter 4. The title of this chapter is the Hamsa Gohya prayers. So here in this verse, Krishna is speaking to Daksha after Daksha offered the Hamsa Gohya prayers to him. And so after offering the prayers, he received direct darshan of Krishna. So for some context into who Daksha is and why he was offering prayers and what's happening right now. Daksha was instrumental in secondary creation, and so he was responsible for creating demigods, demons, and human beings. So after primary creation happened, there was various personalities that are responsible for different sub-creations, and so this was his job. Unfortunately, the population was not increasing properly, and that's his service, to increase the population at the correct rate. And so because of this, he decided to take sannyas and go and pray to Vishnu and beg for his mercy so that he can continue his service. And so he offered the Hamsa Gohya prayers to Vishnu. Gohya means confidential, and Hamsa is the name of Vishnu. It's the swan incarnation of Vishnu. So these prayers Daksha did not create, they were existing already in Vedic literature, and so he offered these prayers to Vishnu. Then after offering these prayers sincerely, Vishnu came before him and gave him direct darshan. He came in an 8-handed form with a blackish complexion and yellow garments. I've never seen this form before, so it seems a very unique form. He gave direct darshan to Daksha. Vishnu understood that Daksha was actually interested in following the path of enjoyment. Daksha was, he was not practicing unavoided bhakti. As part of his duty of procreation, he was very attached to sex life. And so because of this, Vishnu, when he came, he did not actually give him prema. He instead gave him a girl, a Sikni, who was the daughter of Panchajana. And Panchajana was suitable for continuing Daksha's service of continuing procreation and expanding the generations. And so this is Krishna reciprocating according to the desire of Daksha. Depending on the desire that you have for Krishna, Krishna reciprocates accordingly. You can pull up Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, 11th verse. Yeyatamam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanu vartante manushya pasha sarvashaha. Because Krishna is Paramatma, he knows the desire of the living entity, and he's able to reciprocate according to that desire very particularly. Who would like to read the translation of this? Yes, Prabhu.
As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Krishna.
Here Krishna is saying that to the degree you surrender to him, he will reciprocate accordingly. So this is why Krishna bestowed upon Bhaksha he bestowed upon him a means by which he can continue his enjoyment, because that's what Dakshina wanted. Krishna won't give something higher that the devotee did not ask for. He'll reciprocate according to the desire of the devotee. There's another reason also as to why Daksha did not receive prema, and this is because of Vaishnava Parad. This is described in the 4th canto. There's a pastime in which all of the superintendents of the world, all the demigods, Brahma, Shiva, etc., they all came together for a meeting to perform sacrifice. Daksha was also present there. Upon Daksha's arrival, all of the demigods, including Brahma, they stood up and they greeted him respectfully. And Daksha was very appreciative of this. However, Shiva was seated, and he did not actually stand up and offer respects to Daksha. And because of this, Daksha became very disturbed. Because of false pride, he began to criticize Shiva. He began speaking blasphemy, which is described in many verses in the Bhagavatam, all the bad things he said about Shiva. And so he committed Vaishnava Parad. Shiva is the greatest devotee of Lord Vishnu, and so to speak such things results in severe consequence. So because of this, Nandishwar, otherwise known as Nandi, who is Shiva's servant, Nandi decided to curse Daksha, and he said that because of this offense you've done, you will obtain the head of a goat. And then he also decided to curse various other people. He cursed Bhrigu-Muni, and then Bhrigu-Muni started cursing them in return, and it turned into an onslaught of curses. Normally when we have such bickering with other people, we might say, bad things back and forth. But these curses had great consequence because they were actually going to come true. They weren't just, oh, I don't like you. These were all proclamations of what was going to happen in the future. So then afterwards, Sati, who was Shiva's wife, she arrived at the assembly and she noticed that Shiva was not there. And she thought Shiva was not invited. How can this be possible? You do not know who Shiva is. Why did you not invite him? And so she decided to immolate herself. With her own Shakti, she decided to, out of anger, she burned herself, and she left. So when Shiva heard about this happening, he became very angry. At first when the curses were happening, he just left the place. He didn't really, he was morose, but he didn't want to partake. But now after Sati having left because of this offense, he decided to take action. So he along with all of his servants, went, and one of his servants, whose name is, I wrote this down, his name is Veerabhadra. This is one of Shiva's servants. Veerabhadra decides, he tries various ways to cut Daksha's head, and eventually he's able to. And then afterwards, Brahma goes to Shiva, pacifies him, and Shiva decides to give Daksha the head of a goat. So the reason this is relevant here is because this entire pastime of how Daksha offended Shiva is the reason why he did not get prema, even after receiving direct darshan of Vishnu. Despite offering, receiving darshan of Vishnu is a very high platform. One does not get the darshan of Vishnu directly just through, oh Krishna, please help me. It requires very severe austerity. But despite receiving this darshan of Vishnu, he still did not get prema. And the reason for this was because of the offense of a devotee. So we can talk about this a little bit more, just the effect of offending of a devotee and how it impacts our bhakti. Does anyone have any other examples in Shastra we can think of? Just anything about someone who offended a devotee, and we can think about what happened. Any ideas? Yes.
Durvasa Muni to Amrish Maharaj.
Yes, okay, let's look at this as a case study for the example of the offense of a devotee. There was somebody in Ambarish Maharaj. Ambarish Maharaj was a devotee of Vishnu, he was a Hari Bhakta. He was a very proper devotee. He used everything that he had for Krishna service, for Vishnu service. This is describe how he used every single aspect of his body for Vishnu service. And so he was performing austerity of Ekadashi and Dvadashi. Normally our Ekadashi lasts one day, but he decided for this austerity he was performing Ekadashi for 1 full year. And the importance of this is that if you perform Ekadashi for a full year, you better break it at the right time. For us we might do Ekadashi and then maybe not break at the right time, but we always have another one 2 weeks later. But he was doing this Ekadashi for a full year, and so it was very important that he broke Ekadashi at the correct moment. So he had many, many guests that were here at this assembly, and he was offering them, they were going to honor Prashadam in a little bit. And then Durvasa Muni appeared uninvited. Durvasa Muni is a very exalted sage, and so whenever he arrives, it requires respect of the host, and so he needs to be tended to. And sometimes this repeats in Shastra actually, where Durvasa Muni requiring to be fed is quite a predicament. This happened to Draupadi as well, when Durvasa Muni appeared, not just alone, but with his thousands of sages and said, we're going to go bathe, come back, and then we'll eat. But it was just Draupadi. So this same thing now happened to Ambarish Maharaj, except he had the facility to provide Durvasa Muni with Prashadam. But the issue was that Durvasa Muni went to Yamuna to first touch the water of Yamuna, but Ambarish Maharaj had to break his fast at a particular time. So he could not simply delay and break his fast whenever he wanted. So he consulted with his ministers and he talked with them and he said, what should we do about this? Ultimately they concluded that if he just drank water, it would both satisfy him breaking his fast at the right time, but then also not eating. So he did this, he drank some water. When the Durvasa Muni came back, however, by his mystic potency, he was able to deduce that Ambarish Maharaj had consumed water without him being there first. He had eaten or consumed food before serving him first. So he became very offended by this, and he created a demon with his own Shakti and deployed that demon on Ambarish Maharaj. But because Ambarish Maharaj was a sincere devotee, a pure devotee of Krishna, Vishnu sent his Sudarshan Chakra, and that demon was immediately vanquished. Then the Sudarshan Chakra began to chase Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni was confused, he was scared, so he started to run away. He first went to Brahma, and he said that Brahma, there's a Sudarshan Chakra, please save me. But Brahma couldn't do anything. He said, no, I'm sorry, I am servant of Vishnu. This is not within my capacity. He went to Shiva. Shiva said the same thing, we are all servants of Vishnu. Ultimately, destruction happens at the end of this world, but we are all subordinate to Vishnu. He then went to Vishnu, and Vishnu said, I cannot do anything about this actually, because I am bound by the love of my devotees. Only Ambarish Maharaj can save you. Then upon going to Ambarish Maharaj forgave him, and the Sudarshan Chakra stopped. So we can see this as an example of how even the tiniest of offenses to a devotee, it's not really a tiny one, he created a demon, but even the tiniest of offenses is of great concern to Krishna, and he will show his wrath to protect his devotees, just as Narasimhadeva appeared to protect Prahlad Maharaj. So it's very important that we offer respects to devotees and to not disrespect them in any way. Sometimes when we see devotees, we might see some external imperfections in them, but these should also be overlooked. This is explained in the 6th verse of Nectar of Instruction. You can look at this verse, NOI verse 6. Drishtai svabhava janitaiva kushasya doshair na prakritatva iha bhakta janasya pashyet gangam bhasam na kalbudbudapena pankair ramadravatvam apagachati mira dharmai. Who wants to read this translation? Okay,
Being situated in his virginal Krishna conscious position, a pure devotee does not identify with the body. Such a devotee should not be seen from a materialistic point of view. Indeed, one should overlook a devotee's having a body born in a low family, a body with a bad complexion, a deformed body, or a diseased or infirm body. According to ordinary vision, such imperfections may seem prominent in the body of a pure devotee, but despite such seeming defects, the body of a pure devotee cannot be polluted. It is exactly like the water of the Ganges, which sometimes during the rainy season are full of bubbles, foam, and mud. The Ganges water do not become polluted. Those who are advanced in spiritual understanding will bathe in Ganges without considering the condition of the water.
So here it is explaining how the Uttamadhikari might seemingly appear to have defects externally, or maybe they might, there's physical deformities. They also might, upon observing them, they might seem to make apparent mistakes at times. But these should be overlooked because it's not actually the contamination of the pure devotee. And to think otherwise would result in Vaishnava Parad. Let's go to the last paragraph of this purport. Who would like to read this? Yes.
When one thus criticizes a pure devotee, he commits an offense, Vaishnava Parad, that is very obstructive and dangerous for those who desire to advance in Krishna consciousness. A person cannot derive any spiritual benefit when he offends the lotus feet of a Vaishnava. Everyone should therefore be very careful not to be jealous of an empowered Vaishnava or a Shuddha Vaishnava. It is also an offense to consider an empowered Vaishnava an object of disciplinary action. It is offensive to try to give him advice or correct. One can distinguish between a neophyte Vaishnava and an advanced Vaishnava by their activities. The advanced Vaishnava is always situated as the spiritual master, and the neophyte is always considered his disciple. Nor should a spiritual master be obliged to take instructions from those who are not his disciples. This is the sum and substance of Srila Rupa Goswami's advice in the 60th verse.
Yes. TLDR, do not commit Vaishnava Parad, is what it is, is what the point of this verse is. So we've seen the severity of offending a pure devotee. We have examples like Lord Shiva. Here is explaining how, for the Uttamadhikari, you should overlook defects. But what about someone who is a devotee and then sometimes makes mistakes? What should we think of such a devotee? The answer to this is given in Bhagavad Gita 9.30. Abhishek Sudaracharo, Ajate Mamna Nilhak, Sadhureva Samantavya, Samyam Kyavisito Hisa.
9 point.
This statement makes it very clear because it uses the superlative case of, taking the extreme. So we can read the translation of this. 9.30. No worries. Who wants to read this translation? Yes, one of you.
Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination.
So it's saying here that you should consider a devotee to be saintly pretty much in all circumstances. It's not saying that if they kind of mess up at times, you should still consider them saintly. It says even if they commit the most abominable action, they should still be considered saintly. So it's making it very clear that under no circumstances should a devotee be offended or to be considered lesser than his or her true position. So this is just all of the. This is a description of the first offense of the holy name, which is.
Blaspheming the devotees, the propagation of the holy names.
Yes. So this is what Bhakta did. He blasphemed a devotee who dedicated his life to the propagation of the holy name of the Lord. And the result of this was that even despite receiving direct darshan of Vishnu, he did not achieve prema. He instead received a way to continue his sense enjoyment. So he was responsible for creation. And the purpose of creation, as I was explaining in the purport, is to give the living entities a chance to practice bhakti. It's to give them a chance to untangle themselves from material contamination. So one question that may arise is, if we look at the translation of this verse again, 6.4.44, Krishna is telling Bhakta that my desire also is that everyone within this world be happy. You know, he's happy that Bhakta performed austerities for the welfare of the world. So what is the only way that we can be happy? Right, by serving Krishna, by practicing bhakti. So if it is Krishna's desire that everyone be happy, then why doesn't he simply put it in our face? Like, why doesn't he make it so obvious that he's given us Vedic literature and a means by which we can approach him? But why doesn't he, appear constantly and make it so obvious to everyone such that no one can doubt that Krishna is the supreme authority? He has the ability to come manifest himself to everyone, just like he did to Daksha. Why doesn't he do this? I want to get. Go ahead.
You will not be able to love him.
He will not be able to love him, and why is
If
he?
he just comes in front of us before us, then we would not be having the kind of the purity, the love to be able to serve him. Would be more like authoritative or he is the supreme. Then that's why we respect that person around.
So you're saying that if he comes and he simply asserts his dominance, then the living entity will submit himself to him not out of love but out of subordination, like that. Yes.
I can share my opinion. If you get something without putting a lot of effort into it, you get something without paying for it, you might not value it as much as if you would value it once you fully put yourself into it.
I think these are very good points. When if Krishna is only interested in unmotivated loving relationships. So if he were to design the world in such a way such that even the least intelligent people in the world could not explain its existence without him in the equation, then we would be intellectually forced into accepting him. In other words, if he were to make it so obvious to everyone that he was the supreme and that everyone should serve him, then we really don't have a choice. And because Krishna is only interested in loving relationships, he wants to give us a choice. It's an example of his ingenuity that he's able to design the world in such a way that he can be explained out of it. There's a viable, plausible explanation for our existence without him in the equation. And so because of this, we actually have a choice whether to choose him or not. And he gives us this choice because there is no love without free will. So Krishna actually, everything he's doing, even the service that we render to him, is for his benefit, is for our benefit. He's saying in this verse that my desire also is that everyone within this world be happy. So even the service opportunities that he bestows upon us is for us to be happy. Prahlad Maharaj explains this in his prayers, 7th canto, 9th chapter, 11th verse, and 7.9.11. Naivat mana prabhurayam nijalabha purno manam janana vidusha karuno vrinite yad yad jano bhagavate nidadhita manam tachatmane pratimukhasya yathamukhashi. Who would like to read this translation? Okay, our Pandit will read it.
The Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is always fully satisfied in himself. Therefore, when something is offered to him, the offering by the Lord's mercy is for the benefit of the devotee. For the Lord does not need service from anyone. To give an example, if one's face is decorated, the reflection of one's face is in a mirror, is also seen to be decorated.
Oh, sorry. So you're saying that when something is offered to the Lord, it's for actually our benefit, because he doesn't need anything. So he allows us to serve him for us to be happy. And it's explained here that it is his desire for us to be happy, and this is how he's doing it. He's allowing us to be happy by allowing us to render him service. And so this should be the mood of the devotees, is to allow as many people as possible to be happy. And the way we do this is by bringing everyone to Krishna consciousness. It is Krishna's desire for everyone to be happy, and it is our job to execute this desire. The mood of the devotee is not simply for self-advancement, for self-upliftment. That's one of the goals of the devotee. But the reason for this self-upliftment is so that we can share it with others. The mood of all the exalted devotees is that they want to spread Krishna Prema to everyone in the world. And this is perfectly also explained by Prahlad Maharaj. The context of these prayers here is that Nrsimhadev was very angry upon killing Hiranyakashipu. All the demigods were trying to pacify him, but to no avail. They weren't successful. And so they decided to push Prahlad forward and said, "You go talk to him, you have a calm demeanor. He might listen to you." And so in this chapter he offers a lot of prayers. Let's go to the 43rd verse of this chapter.
It's the same chapter.
The same chapter, yes. And you can look at just the translation.
43. I mean, like you were talking about, like 6 point.
Oh, 7th chapter, 7th canto, 9th chapter, 43rd verse. Yes.
Yeah.
Who wants to read the translation? Check it out, Prabhu.
O best of the great personalities, I am not at all afraid of material existence, for whatever I say, I am fully absorbed in thoughts of your glories and activities. My concern is only for the fools and rascals who are making elaborate plans for material happiness and maintaining their families, societies, and countries. I am simply concerned with love for them.
Must be the next translation as well, 44th verse. Who wants to read this? Yes.
My dear Lord Nrsimhadev, I see that there are many saintly persons indeed, but they are interested only in their own deliverance, not caring for the big cities and towns. They go to Himalayas or the forest to meditate with pose of silence. Moreover, they are not interested in delivering others. As for me, however, I do not wish to be liberated alone, leaving aside all these poor fools and rascals. I know that without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter of a lotus feet, one cannot be happy. Therefore, I wish to bring them back to shelter at your lotus feet.
Prahlad Maharaj is a perfect example that we can aspire to have this devotee. He's one of the Mahajans, so he's a good example for us to look at. The mood of the devotee is not simply to go in the Himalayas, go to a secluded place, to chant and to purify oneself. It's to help everyone else as well. And this is the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as well. He came to this world to bestow upon us the mellow conjugal love of the rasa of bhakti. And it is our job to serve his mission, to spread this to every town and village. And sometimes we, with the aspiration of helping everyone, sometimes we might also overdo it. Like the ninth offense of the holy name is to not instruct a faithless person. So it's important to also be mindful of this, where if someone is not receptive at all, then it's okay. It's not their time right now. They might not be a ripe fruit yet, but eventually they might ripen. But generally speaking, it is the mood of the devotees to try to spread Krishna consciousness everywhere. And the reason this relates to this verse is because Daksha is responsible for procreation, and the highest benefit of procreation is to beget Krishna conscious children. It's to spread Krishna consciousness. So even in this service, the actual function of it is to create Krishna conscious living entities. And we must also be very, very cautious of not offending other devotees, because that's one of the strongest detriments to our advancement. If we offend a devotee, then just like Daksha or just like Durvasamuni, we might have, it'll be a disaster. So it is the injunction and the admonishment of the Shastra for us to not offend devotees. Are there any thoughts or questions on any of these points? Yes.
There was a word, Nitya
Yes.
and we are the presence of Krishna's word, something like that.
Yeah.
What does Nitya mean?
Nityabadha means eternally conditioned. So us as living entities, we have an eternal rebellious nature against Krishna. And so that's the reason we're currently in our situation.
So Krishna, I mean, we are part and parcels of Krishna, and when Krishna is free, we should be like having that kind of freedom. Like we should be kind of Nitya Siddha instead of Nitya Bhagwan.
Yes. So that is our most natural state. But Krishna also has his external energy of his Mahamaya potency, which is also a part of him. And so we have taken shelter of that nature of Krishna rather than his Yogamaya nature of pure unadulterated love. Is that okay? Did that make sense? Or do you have any other follow-ups?
No, I was like, if we are coming from him, do we become Nitya Bhagwan after coming in this material nature, or we were Nitya Bhagwan originally?
The concept of why we're in this material existence is slightly complicated. So if you want, we can talk about that after lecture. There's a.
Originally.
I don't want to pick a side. Yeah, we can discuss that after lecture. Yeah. Are there any other thoughts on any of these points or questions?
Thank you for the class.
Thank you. Yes, please.
In one of the verses it said that the Lord gives us service to purify us.
Yes.
So, like, which purifies us faster, sadhana or service?
Can you repeat that last part one more time?
Which purifies us faster, sadhana or service?
So sadhana is a service. So are you saying like other services aside from sadhana? There's no such. So one is that sadhana is a necessary requirement. So no matter what, if in a particular day if you're not able to do anything, then at least you should do your sadhana. So that should not be neglected. But it is mentioned in a few places that out of all of the 9 processes of devotional service, executing any of them can lead one to the ultimate goal. So there's no hierarchy when it comes to such services. So Shravanam, Kirtanam, all of them, if you pick one of them, there's examples of devotees that have exclusively pretty much chosen each of them, and they all achieve perfection.
Just the same kind of question. So are the hands which are doing service purer than the lips which are leading prayers?
Yeah, our actual physical body is material, so they're being used as instruments, but what's being purified is our consciousness, our soul, not so much our physical machine. Any other thoughts or questions?
What you are planning to prove here?
Yes.
Prabhu, when you live among devotees, like especially when you live in temple, like it is, you might not willingly or from your own will you would commit an offense, but it's sometimes maybe unknowingly you might commit an offense. So how to guard yourself from that, and what if you commit an offense? What's the next step? What to do after that?
Yeah, after committing offense, the next step is to seek forgiveness. It's mentioned that even thinking of a devotee in an offensive way is also an offense. So I've heard from senior devotees that even if you think of a devotee, you should go to them and say, "I'm sorry, Prabhu, but actually I just thought of you. I just wanted to seek forgiveness." That's actually what we're supposed to do, even about thinking of a devotee. So that's what should be done. Seek for forgiveness, and devotees are the most merciful. So if you look at Amrish Maharaj, for example, it's not very easy to forgive someone who creates a demon and tries to kill you. But he did so without any